Okay, Sinatapi. Welcome to Native Wellness Institute's Wellness Wednesday. Woo-hoo! Man, have we got some healing for you. We have special guests today, but Badass Auntie, I'm always like, okay, I'm like excited. I'm so excited. In Indian country, there's conferences going on across the country. We just had boys with braids, Native men and boys that all have long hair. They registered 380 and 700 showed up. So what they do? They tore the fry bread in half. What did they do? They got more chairs. What did they do? They got and they healed. So welcome to Wellness Wednesday. Every Wednesday, Native Wellness Institute comes to you with a power hour. We have over 500 power hours, and it's on YouTube. All you have to do is type in Native Wellness Institute, and you can watch all this healing and listening for free. This is free. We're not trying to write a book. I'm not trying to get a PhD. We're just talking about healing in Indian country and how tribes are healing. So I'll have to say, last week we were in Winnipeg, and we got to interview all of those who are healing in Treaty 3 and Treaty 1. Today, we're in Oklahoma City. And Oklahoma City is the third largest city of indigenous population in the lower 48. Did you know that? There's a lot of indigenous in this city. So that's where we're coming to you from. So I came here, and Cecilia Fire Thunder, if you're out there, we love you. We hope you're watching this. I took this job because they said they wanted me and Cecilia Fire Thunder, the badass aunties and the badass grandma, to come to talk about healthy sexuality. And I love Cecilia. We worked together 5 decades. 5 decades. Look at that's why I look like this. It's cool. I love my turkey neck. Oh, I love my turkey neck. You know me. I was looking forward to speaking with, at the same time, dialoguing with Cecilia to see what we thought about stopping the violence against Native women. About that Native women were sacred. And Cecilia, you know what Cecilia is doing? Oh my gosh. She has moved into the boarding school, Marty Mission, where she went to boarding school. And she is in the office that was the Mother Superior's office. She's in, talk about coming full circle. But what she's doing is interviewing all the ones that are alive that she went to boarding school with. And most of them are fluent Lakota speakers, and they're telling their version. They don't want anyone else telling their version. And so think about that. You should be telling your own healing story, not someone else telling your story. It's kind of like, remember that Columbus guy, said he discovered America? Right, that's his story. But was it the real story? Hell no. It wasn't the story. So today we came here, and I'm very energized. Look at this is how much energy I got. I'm energized because there's all these advocates here. There's all these conduits. There's all these traditional practitioners. There's all these clinicians. There's all these brand new, like just got a job last week, and they're hitting the road, rolling along. We're all together in Oklahoma City at the Sheridan, and we're talking about stopping the violence against Native women and stopping the violence against LGBTQ, two-spirit, non-binary, gender fluid, those pronouns that use they. We're in and so I'm excited because I've heard so much. My spirit is full, like just up to here. My heart is full. And so part of healing is talk, listening. And so I have a couple sisters here that I just love dearly. Yeah, I just love dearly because not only the work they do, just who they are. I just like to see them. I get excited. We start hugging. We've been doing a lot of hug therapy here. So in coming here last night, and I got 8 hours of sleep. It is so beautiful, here. It is just like a really good healing, safe place. So our first guest, Native Wellness Institute and Minnesota Indigenous Women's Sexual Assault Coalition and SWIC and some others, we started saying, hey, we need some retreats. We need some retreats. We work so dang hard. We do so much. We need some lovely time where we can eat together, dance together. We've been dancing here, where we can just, we're in the spirit room where there's coloring books and there is coloring pencils, there's smudge, there's just a lot of good stuff here. How do the healers heal? So our first guest, the question I posed is, what are we doing here in Oklahoma City? And what kind of healing's happening here?
All right, good afternoon. Bujon Entanoe Maganang, Nicole Matthew, Jaganashimon, Aidu Beneshi Indigo, Migazinto Dame, Gawa Babaganakag and Dunjaba. Greetings, relatives. My English name is Nicole Matthews, and my Indian name means Spirit Bird Woman. I'm Eagle Clan. My family's from the White Earth Band of Ojibwe, and I work with the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition. So this week, we have an Institute for the Tribal Sexual Assault Services Program grantees. So these are people around the country that have specific funding that goes to their tribes to address sexual violence in their communities against their female relatives, their male relatives, their children, the LGBTQ community. And so really looking at, we've had conversations around advocacy and healing for men and boys. Lenny facilitated a really great discussion this morning around healing for men and boys, and also, healing for LGBTQ two-spirit relatives. And I think some of this was really new information for people. We have Bonnie Claremont, who's been an advocate and a mentor to many of us for many, many years, and has always, been working with our communities to address sexual violence. And, we've had conversations around lifting the silence and not only telling the victims, having to share all their stories, but we need to start talking about those who've caused harm. And because we often talk about, people who have experienced violence, but the people who have caused violence are invisibilized. And so we've had conversations about what does that look like? And further, how do we also have accountability, and what does justice look like? And all of those things that are needed for our survivors and in our communities. And, I think there's no easy answers. And there's not just one answer. There's a lot of answers, a lot of solutions that are always based in community and always based in the needs of survivors first, right? Like, what do survivors need? You said we're sitting in our self-care room where we have, cedar and sage and water and ways for people to just pause. Because sometimes our healers and our helpers, they need support too. Because sometimes it's hard for us to give what we don't have, right? So we have to also take time for ourselves to replenish and to, whether that's through prayer, ceremony, whether it's through, going for a walk, breathing in the air. I like to, put prayers into my water and drink my water and, getting 8 hours of sleep. I wish I could do that. The older I get, the less sleep I get. But but I aspire to get 8 hours of sleep. But it's been a really good week, and this is the first time that the TSASP grantees have been in person together since before COVID.
Oh, wow. So this is the first time, so it was always on Zoom.
Yeah,
okay, so
it's
tell
been on
us about
Zoom.
that.
It's been on Zoom for 3.5 years now. So, and Zoom is great. Like, they meet monthly. They have their Connect and Reflect calls monthly, so they build community together and support each other. But this is the first time they get to be in person together, where they get to learn together, they get to have conversations together, they get to meet new friends and go out to dinner together and just share space. So tonight we have a meet and greet where we can eat dinner together and get to know each other a little bit better. And the restaurant is going to open the restaurant just for us tonight. So we're really excited to have some space together. And for also, this is a federally funded program, and it also gives space for their program manager from OVW to get to know them as well. And she has been really trying to go out in community, because one thing we know is that people don't understand Indian country, and they might go to one community, but it looks vastly different in Montana than it does in Minnesota or Alaska and down in Arizona or New Mexico or California. Our tribes are all very different, and so she's been trying to get out in community to really understand the needs of survivors in those communities. And so to be here also gives her an opportunity to get to know the grantees a little better so that she can be their advocate in the federal government, because that's really what what that role should be, is the advocate's advocate within that funding office, within the Office on Violence Against Women. And she's really working hard to try and make that happen. So I think we're really thankful for that, and really grateful that she's here and has been such a good ally to us.
Do you want to name her?
Yeah, it's Sydney West, and she works for the Office on Violence Against Women, and she has been such a great supporter, and we're really excited. And then we have, Stephanie Bridwell and Debbie Bush are the ones who co-coordinate the TSAS project from MUSAC as the TA, and they are a dream team. They just do such great work, and this is their first institute that they put together. And it's beautiful. They did such a good job, and we had the Ponca tribal people come, and they had a drum, and they had some singers, and their tribal chairman came and did a beautiful welcome yesterday. And so we were really welcomed and greeted by the people, some of the people here, and so they put together a really good event, and I'm grateful to be here this week.
What's been your favorite part?
Oh my gosh, there's so many favorite parts.
Just grab one.
You know what? I think laughter. The laughter that you bring into a space, I think, is really, it's just so needed. And having, the Native Wellness Institute here that can bring joy into the room. I mean, I laughed so hard this morning. I was worried that I was going to have to run to the bathroom. And we need joy, right? We need joy. And when we're working with trauma every single day, we have to remember that the medicine and the healing is also in our joy. And so I love that. Because there's some hard topics that we have to talk about, and that many of us have experienced also. Many of us are in this work because we've experienced violence. So
yes,
I think that's my favorite.
So the cool thing about reservation dogs is that everywhere you go and there's Indians, there's reservation dogs. All you need is an iPhone and a stand, and our people are telling their stories. One of I've shared over the Power Hour and those that I have met, I was perpetrated, and I use that word because I was perpetrated by a medicine person. and a medicine man. I look back, it's almost like 35 years ago. But at the time, and I just have to say, at the time, I was so stunned and shocked. I was so stunned and shocked, I couldn't tell anybody. I was so stunned and shocked, I eventually told, I have a 12-step group. Most of you know I go to 12-step. I went to my Al-Anon and I told my Al-Anon group, and then I told some family members, and then it was the safety in little increments. And so we have another guest, but I think even now I can go there because we've heard so much story of healing here that it's resonating inside, and I'm glad that I can hear it, that I can feel it, that I could identify with it. And we just had just as Nicole said, we just had Lenny Hayes is phenomenal. And Lenny and we got to know each other when he worked for Sovereign Bodies Institute, and we were setting up the database. And so we got to know each other, but I only knew Lenny on Zoom. And he only knew me in this box, like, hey, there's other parts of us, right? Indians and Zoom. We all look good on Zoom, remember? But we got our pajamas on the bottom and our slippers, and our food is over here, and we're just remember we came from a pandemic. And I'd like, all of you out there that remember we have collectively come through a traumatic experience, and collectively having this pandemic and then just being at the place, we have to be gentle with ourselves. Today we talked about lateral kindness in every way. We have to allow some time, and that's why the Power Hour, we came here because today we want to let you know what's going on in Oklahoma City. So I was sitting there and I was just writing, how does Theda feel? What is Theda thinking? What is Theda? I was just like I was doodling, and just listening to Lenny was healing for me. Just listening to the other speakers, I was doodling, and then it just felt, and no one was saying anything. I was just like, everyone else was doodling, and we're trying not to stare at our phones, eh? Because raise your hand. I'm a recovering workaholic. Recovering workaholics love to stare at their phones, right? And so our boundaries, just think about your thought process, your mind, your body, your spirit. Where is it at, and are there boundaries? Like, I don't need to think about next year's election, right? So I'm not. I don't need to think about putting up a Christmas tree because I never do. I don't need to think about shopping and going into credit debt because I don't do that. Anyway, but what's the boundaries of thought? While I was sitting there, I thought, I'm in a historical moment. There is Lenny Hayes talking about healing men and boys, and there he is just mapping it out like what you do, and then sharing some of his story, and then listening to other people's story. So one of the qualifiers for being here, and it seemed that a qualifier is to tell some of your story. Before I have our next guest introduce herself. Last week, I realized in my spirit I came full circle with another round of forgiveness of my perpetrator. I realized that I was in a room with one of their children, but I didn't know that was one of their children. And I worked with one of those children for 3 days, just the best I could, giving all I could to that person's healing. And then I found out at the end, and I just thought, thank you, Creator. It's about us forgiving. It's about us letting go. It's about us not carrying grudges. It's about us not carrying the hurtness so that we go out and hurt others. And so I thank Creator, and most of you know that I don't suck up my tears. I don't hold them back. This is how I look. Because I'm an Indian in healing. And so I want to bring our next guest. And I was just, one of my favorite times was in Las Vegas. I think we were at Agona Training of Trainers. And when the sister would speak, I felt like I was with my aunties, my badass aunties that trained me and brought me up and taught me how to, change a baby's diaper and how to make certain kind of soups proper and how to make dry meat. And so I would like our next guest, I like for them to introduce themselves. So would you please say hello to Bonnie?
Good afternoon. My English name is Bonnie Claremont, and my Ho-Chunk name, I'm a citizen of the Ho-Chunk Nation. I'm from the Bear Clan of the Ho-Chunk Nation, and my Indian name is Rajadanga, which means to be called upon woman. And the person who gave it to me, I guess, had high hopes that someday I'd be called upon to do good things and help people and, share what I can share to help others. And so lots of good, hopes for me. And I've come this far with that name. And I currently work for the Tribal Law and Policy Institute, and we're based in West Hollywood, California, but I live in St. Paul, Minnesota. My people are from Wisconsin, the Ho-Chunk people, and so that's still home. Wisconsin is home. And but I grew up in the St. Paul, Minnesota community, so I'm urban Indian, but you never lose that. You never lose the Indianness inside of you, right? You take it. It's part of you. It's in your genes. So we work with the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition, and we are a training and technical assistance provider. So we are partnering with them on working with our relatives out there who are providing services to people who've been harmed, people who've been hurt by sexual violence. We say sexual violence, we say sexual abuse, sexual assault, and sometimes I just call it rape, because there's so much more power in that word, if we're looking at English language, because I'm a survivor of rape. And as a child, I was molested by what you call today spiritual leaders, road men in our ways. And then later on, as a teenager. And I was fortunate that I had the mother who was from a different clan, because we're patrilineal, so her clan is different. She is from the warrior clan. And, the way it sounds is absolutely so characteristic of my mom. She was a true warrior in all ways. So anytime anything happened to me, I would go to her right away and she would believe me. And she would say, we're going to do whatever to protect you. And, you don't ever have to be around those people again. And I'm going to go take care of them if you want me to. It was always from my own perspective, like I was in control of what she was going to do. And that always felt good. She believed me. She was angry, upset, but she never took it and ran with it. So I was fortunate that way. And my mother also took in other people who were harmed into our home and provided safe haven. So it was kind of like we had our own little domestic violence shelter going when I was little. I'd wake up in the middle of the night and there'd be, a woman sleeping on the couch and her kids sleeping on the floor by me, and that's kind of how we grew up. So becoming an advocate, as I grew older, it wasn't something that I thought about doing, but because of my own experience as a survivor, and also because of how my mom raised me, and also with that activist sort of a kind of background. She was involved with the American Indian movement, and some of their tactics weren't great. Some of them ended up in prison or were coming out of prison, but she supported them like she was their mother, she was their grandmother, and supported me to become involved as well. So it was kind of like no coincidence that I ended up being an advocate. It felt right, and it still does after 30 years or so, right? That I'm exactly where I need to be. And when we talk about healing, which is what we've been doing for the last couple of days, it's so affirming to me in my own healing. I'm still healing, because once in a while that hurt gets opened a little and, kind of scratched away at, and I remember and I recall things, and some things that I listen to, it's like I can relate to what they're talking about, our speakers, and visiting with other, like Nicole said, the TSASP grantees, the Tribal Sexual Assault Services programs. They are doing amazing work out in Indian country, all over the country. They're providing services to people, our relatives who've been harmed by sexual violence, by rape. And, to be able to visit with them, and I just, I want to just hug them, and, but at the same time, people have boundaries, and I respect the boundaries. So it's like I try to refrain, but I just, being, the age I am, I'm a grandmother and I'm a great grandmother, and it's just instinctive. Like I want to hold people and nurture and listen and cry with them and laugh with them. And Theda's given that to us, in this last couple of days. I don't know that I've laughed so much at any particular conference or gathering as I have the last couple of days, and it's felt so good. I remember my mom and my aunties and my grandma, when they would gather around, they did exactly that. They would gather around making baskets, or they would gather around butchering that big old animal that they drug in from the woods, and, being busy with their sharp knives that they pulled out of somewhere, like, wow, those are some pretty wicked knives they have there, but they would cut that meat up so in such an artistic way and cook it up. Meanwhile, there was like a pot of soup boiling on the stove, on the old wood stove. And there they were visiting and talking and laughing, and once in a while even crying. And, that's the kind of energy that I think we need, continue to need in our healing, right? And working in shelters, I've tried my best to bring that kind of energy into shelters, even to help people there that are healing from all different types of violence. The single moms that would come there with their children to find a safe place and to get support and to be believed when they tell someone that they've been harmed in the way that they have. That's all our healing. And we're so blessed that we have so many tools and so many medicines to heal ourselves, right? And we've been talking about some of those things the last couple of days. And our opening, the person who opened up the Institute in a really good way, his chairman, Little Cook from the Punkah tribe, and he talked about how healing has to happen in a whole way, meaning healing has to happen with our spirits, our minds, and our bodies, and our emotions, right? And we've been doing that. We incorporate that kind of belief in our work as advocates, because we're healers, but at the same time, we have to continue to heal ourselves. And these gatherings bring us that opportunity to connect with each other and to share the stories, our life experiences with each other, and continue our own healing. But healing, talking about healing physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, how we've been harmed in each of those areas. Also, we can heal in each of those areas, right? We have medicines that can help us heal in all of those areas, like with, our medicines that we have, the physical medicines that we have. Every tribe has their medicines. Medicines for our mind, our intellects, the ability to learn and educate and read and visit each other and visit other tribes, to learn, to enrich our minds. Because as survivors, we were led to believe that the abuse was our fault, that we did something to deserve what happened to us. We deserve to be raped because of our reputation, or because of our flirting, or because of our drinking, or whatever it is, and that mindset, can really harm someone deeply, right? So we have to heal ourselves with medicine of knowledge, to be able to say, no, that's not the reason why I was raped. I was raped because someone chose that. Someone chose to rape me. And, so medicines even for our spirits, because we become disconnected from our spirits when we're raped. Our spirits and our bodies, they separate, and our healing needs to be reconnected, right? So there's that. We have our spiritual ways. And when I say spiritual, right away I think colonized thinking brings us to church, which can be, definitely that's an option for some people. But spirituality is just, again, a lived experience for ourselves. It's on a daily basis. Everywhere we go, our nature, the sky, the earth, the animals, the smells that we receive into our senses, all of those things can all be healing to us. So, to be able to take advantage of those things, and our emotions, like I said, the ability to cry, it's really okay. Even as advocates, as service providers, to be honest with ourselves about how we feel, rather than that sort of cold, distant therapist professional, we have to be able to, yes, hold each other if that's appropriate, to cry with one another, to laugh with one another. Humor is how we've survived so much, in our history. So all of these things are healing to us, and we've been talking about and visiting about those things the last couple of days, and it's really been really a good couple of days. And I really hope and pray, that was my prayer, the last couple of days, is that our relatives who have come here can take away something really good to help them in the work that they do, because they're doing such amazing work, oftentimes with very little. I just want them to get more support and yes, even more funding, because, that's what's needed by a lot of survivors out there who have, who don't have anything even. Some of them don't even have a roof over their heads or a way to feed their children, So if there's a way that we can help survivors in that way, that I would hope that there could be more funding available to them. So those are some of my thoughts about healing. And, the good thing that's happening is that it's happening all across the country. People are much more apt and more willing to talk about sexual assault, more willing to talk about rape, to be able to even say the words, right? Because there was a time where we just, there was so much silence. And now we're kind of getting to that place where we're able to at least speak about it and break that silence. So I just wanted to share that much with you, and I'll turn it back over to Sister.
I just love these two, and I was just over here going, just going, as Bonnie and as Nicole was talking. So maybe I'll share some of my story, and I'll say my story as I didn't know I was a healer. When I was in the 4th grade, they brought me in this room, and they said, "What do you want to be, little girl?" And they had this book. And at that time, I was the oldest child, and I just loved my dad. I still love him today. He's in the spirit world. But I loved him, and he was a welder and a truck driver. And so they said, what do you want to be, little girl? And I go, I want to be a welder. And so then they took the book and they turned it to the page and it said, male occupants only. And they said, sorry, little girl, you can't be a welder. And they go, what else would you like to be, little girl? So I said, I want to be a truck driver. So then they turned the page to truck driver and it said male occupants only. And that kind of pissed me off as a little girl. Then they said, what else do you want to be, little girl? And I said, I don't want to be nothing if I can't be a welder or a truck driver. And I share that with you because part of the healing we're doing here is generational. And so that was, I was born in 1956. And so then part of the story I want to share with you is I've been asking myself lately, like, what am I healing from? And most of you know my Ta Moko of my female side. This is in honor of my grandparents and my issues are to trust men, and so that's why I have the Ta Moko on my right side. But I have to tell you the story. I was at the 27th annual Two Spirit Gathering, and there was just a lot of Canadians, a lot of young people, like 11 years old, 12 years old. And I was in the elders cabin, which means we had a flush toilet. The other cabins, we were like luxury. We had a flush toilet and we had a shower. We're camping, right? And so I was with other elders, but there was Muffy. And hey, Muffy, if you're out there, and Felipa. And Muffy I had met because she was a police officer at Pine Ridge, and she guarded Cecilia Fire Thunder when she was president of Pine Ridge. And then Muffy was also, whenever we were doing missing and murdered and we were looking for women, she helped us. She organized. We were out there trying to find these women. So I knew her from before, but here she was at the gathering with her wife. And then I never met her wife. And so Felipa, we were in the, we'd wake up, bushy haired, drinking. They were having their coffee, and we just had a great week together. And I had to leave because my mother was, who, was 85, was having some health. She was having a surgery, and so I needed to go home. And so right before I was leaving, Muffy comes up to me, and she goes, Theda, are you Two Spirit? And I just I go, oh, gosh, Muffy, I think I'm 5 or 6. I said, no one's ever asked me that. But I said, Muffy, I think sometimes in my life I operate as a woman. I can do woman things, but sometimes, like when I rebuilt engines, or when I go out in the woods, or when I'm cleaning my weapon, or when I think I'm manly. And then sometimes I think I'm in between. So 5 or 6, I choose where I want to be. And the older I get, I'm 67 and a half years old. I think I do like men with penises. Yes, because you guys, I do, and and I'm in being courted and all that kind of good stuff. But the other day I was thinking, hey, I'm okay if I'm single. I'm okay if I just travel by myself. I'm okay if I come to this conference and I just spontaneously go to lunch and go for walks and be with people. And then I said, well, what kind of gender does that make me? And so part of my story right now, because I just been through a pandemic, you just been through a pandemic, is I'm being gentle with Theda to see what I'm transforming into. I'm being more gentle with Theda to see what I want to do, because I think I'm going to live to about 90, and I think that's pretty good. But in between there, I was thinking, okay, that's a lot of living. So in this transformation, we ask you out there, what are you going to do in 2024 to work on your healing? So and I'm just going to make the pledge, so you check on me, because get my fanny right, is I think I want to take a road trip. And I'm not sure if I'm going to invite anybody, but I might. And they might be this tall. Hey. And I think I want to like just drive, and if I see something, I want to pull over, take some pictures, look at it, smell it, get down. I just want to leave some tobacco, and then I'll find a nice place to stay. And then I'll get up the next morning, and then I'll travel. I want to do a road. And so I was thinking, I think I'm going to buy a truck, another truck, because Badass Auntie needs 2 trucks. See, there you go again. But I always buy these trucks where they'll come up to me and they say, "Ooh, your husband has a nice truck." I go, "That ain't his truck, that's my truck." Anyway, I think I want to take a road trip next year, and I'm not quite, I'm kind of maybe in the spring. I don't want to be in blizzards. And I just want to sleep in different places and pray. And meet some new people. And I think I want to visit some of my friends before we both die. I want to sit with my friends and have a cup of tea in our pajamas. And I want to have conversations of books they read. I want to have conversations of movies they've seen. I want to have conversations of what they like to cook. What is their favorite dish now after the pandemic when we all had to relearn to cook, eh? We couldn't go out to dinner. So that's part of my healing. And so I asked my 2 sisters, just tell me what you're thinking about, and share whatever's comfortable for you, or hell no, you're done healing. No. So Nicole, what, and I have to say, I'm really glad I'm sober. This morning I got up and, I'm just looking kind of somehow, and I just said, thank you, Theda, for being sober. And Theda looked back and said, "You're welcome." So Nicole, what can you share with our brothers and sisters out there about either your own healing or what you're thinking about healing now?
Yeah, I think I have been, a lot of my life I have been raising kids or having a partner and I think I'm at this place where, my baby just turned 18. And so I'm entering this new phase of my life and looking at, who's Nicole, separate from just being a mom or a grandma. I mean, I'm still a mom and a grandma and all those things. But also, one thing that I really wanted to do when I turned 50, which was a couple years ago, was to do 50 dates by myself before I ever got into another relationship with a partner.
Wait, I love that. I love 50 dates by yourself. Okay, so tell us more.
So I want to, because I've always been what do you kids want? We'll go out to dinner where you want. Or when I was, had a relationship, what do you want to eat? I'll do what you want. And so I want to spend some time where I'm what does Nicole want to do? What does Nicole want to eat? I want to go have sushi by myself or go to the movies, even though I'm not a big movie fan, but go to the museum. There's some really great exhibits at the museum in Minneapolis. And I want to go find some joy for me and get to know Nicole better and keep working on my own healing and my own self-love.
So let me ask you, where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Oh my gosh, in 10 years, I'll be 62. You know what? I see myself with hopefully more grandkids that I can just keep loving up. And I see myself I don't know, I feel like I'll still be doing this work. Even if I'm not at MUSAC, I'll be doing this work probably till I die, because I care about our people and I care about healing and wellness. And I see myself on, a trajectory of self-love and healing and comfortable, much more. Every decade I've entered, I've been much more comfortable in my own skin. And so even though I've gotten more wrinkles and gray hair, I love who I am more and more every year. So
I love that, Nicole. So, Bonnie, what do you think about all just even what we said, or you have someone to date though, right? You could do date night, are you thinking of going snagging a few more grandpas? Because I might go snag some grandpas. I like grandpas. Those other ones they're too complicated. So.
Probably my partner for 51 years, Jim, would not want me to be out snagging a whole lot. Might get a little, I mean, he's always really understanding, but, I echo both of what you both shared. I was talking to my partner about, we're going to sell the house hopefully next year. We've lived in the same house for like 40 years. Kids grew up there, grandkids, now the great-grandkids. And it's hard to think about selling it, but it's like this big 4-bedroom house, and, it's time to let it go. And I've been trying to convince him we should get an RV, like just a little RV, and travel. I have a bucket list of places I want to go. I love lighthouses. I want to go see a lighthouse. I don't know if there's anywhere that I could actually stay in one or stay near one, but I want to be by a lighthouse and go eat seafood by the lighthouse. I want to take a train ride out west, out through the Rocky Mountains. Actually even wanted to stay in the Rocky Mountains, just a train ride. Even if it's by myself, just to, be on the train. It's so kind of like nostalgic, right? To be on a train, read a book, whatever it is, maybe read several, listen to music, the music I like to listen to, which no one else in my family really like to listen to. So, just complete my bucket list kinds of things. So that's one. That's part of, again, my own healing. And I know, I don't know that I could ever stop doing the work. It's like in my blood or something. And I've always talked about wanting to do like a grandmother society. Kind of like a program or even just personally to volunteer. And when I worked in shelters, I used to always think about that. Man, we need a grandma around here to just love up the kids, to read to them, to play with them, to teach them little card games, or, tell them stories, or, sew with the women, cook with the women, cry with the women, laugh with the women, like my grandma did, And my mother tried to take a lot of credit for things that, I learned, but it was really actually my grandma who taught me a lot of things. The language, because she couldn't speak English at all. She taught me how to sew, and that's, for me, therapy. Sewing is such therapy. It's like, I don't know what it is. There's something about it that just, all of the ugliness in the world just goes away, and there you are just with your, with your piece of clothing or your piece of fabric or whatever it is, and just focusing on that. And, I can't even sew a straight line anymore because of my vision, but there I am still sewing away. So, that's all part of what I want to do as far as, my own healing. But I really want to continue doing this work in a different capacity. And I'm not sure how that's going to all come about, but I really want to be able to do the grandmother work with our women and children.
So if you had this little RV and you were traveling around and you wanted to stop and maybe have like a visiting session, and you charge like $50 for it. Okay. But you have a little sign on your RV. What would be on that sign? What would you be offering as a grandma?
The sign would say the grandma is in.
Yeah.
Isn't there a Charlie Brown thing like that? I'd say come and visit, laugh, cry, let's eat, let's cook. Even if it's right there in the RV, wherever it might be. just to be able to continue sharing the ways that we heal, sharing the ways that we survive in the world that we do. You know, I want to hear those stories. I want to be able to visit other elders, even in other tribes, and kind of spread the joy, spread the healing.
Ah, okay. So those of you out there in Native Wellness Institute, Healing Land, I'm sure you could come up with. So what if we all had an RV? Because Dr. Sydney Stone Brown is retiring this month, and she does have an RV, and she was thinking about doing telehealth, but riding around as a clinician and offering healing. And I'm not. We'll have to see what's on her RV. But think about in Native Wellness Institute, what are we doing to step up and to put action into finding our voices? We heard over and over at this gathering is the silence keeps us stuck. The silence doesn't serve anyone. And we looked around the room and there was contemplation. There, you could see the emotions. You could see some people were sitting closer to the speaker on their chair when they wanted to listen. And there was just this, how do we break the silence? So Native Wellness Institute, we're here. We welcome, there's several things happening right now in Phoenix. The adults working with youth, there's a couple hundred people over there breaking the silence. There's 100 youth over there in Phoenix. White Bison is on the road now, and White Bison is doing, work with those who get out of prison. White Bison is doing fatherhood is sacred. Motherhood is sacred. Al Pooley is doing fatherhood and families. There's all kinds of, your tribe is now, with marijuana being legal, a lot of our addictions counselors is that good for Indian country? Is vaping? Every high school, Indian high school I go to, they got a machine to catch the vapors. And, is vaping a healing, but let's stick to breaking that silence. Think about it doesn't have to be on your RV, but think about in a safe space, how you could share your story with your family this season. We're all going to be together. It's family time. It's family time where we eat together, where we gift gifts and stuff. But do you need to share something that you might have forgotten with your family? Because we've been sitting with my 85-year-old mom, and so then I just ask her, Mom, can you tell me one more time how you and Dad met? A couple hours later, she goes into storytelling, and I sit there and I just say, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm listening to every word she says, and I'm not going to forget. I'm listening to every single story, and I'm not going to forget, because there's going to be a time when I cherish listening to that story and listening to that visiting. Mm-hmm. And so think about how visiting could be the gift with you and your family till the end of the year. How visiting and eating, and now I just love what Bonnie was saying, and now Nicole, you've got me thinking like 50 dates with Theda. That's all right. Cherish. We could self-love, in all kinds of ways. So I'm going to ask my sister, we got about 5 minutes here. What kind of closing statement, if you would you say to Indian country out there? Because there's a lot of wisdom here. What kind of closing comments do you have? We'll start with Nicole.
I would just say, in closing, healing it's a journey, right? It's not a one and done. And Many of us are on all different places in our healing journey, and so to be patient with yourself and to be patient with those that you love, and to just keep doing the work out there, and to keep breaking the silence, and to keep creating spaces for people to heal, and then we can have, create an Indian country that has balance and wellness.
Thank you so much, Nicole. And what do you think, Bonnie? What a kind of closing. I just love listening to you. I just want to sit here and listen to you. We were just kind of like because you're so precious.
Thank you. I just think, it's so important. Life is so precious. And, I'm reminded every day when different times when we lose relatives, some of them very young, and our elders are leaving us. And, again, I get reminded about how precious life is, to really take in all the opportunities to learn, to share, to visit, and all of that promotes healing, right? And I think we have to be able to reclaim all of the ways that we are able to heal, because I think we've somehow discounted a lot of those ways and replaced them with other things that really aren't as helpful, to a lot of us. So to be able to reclaim our language and incorporate that in our healing, to reclaim our true spiritual ways and incorporate those in our healing, to incorporate our values and our traditions in our healing, versus, having to just send someone off to behavioral health and, a non-native person who doesn't understand them. To be able to reclaim what was once ours and to utilize those things to the fullest, right? And in really healthy, good ways. So that's my message, because those opportunities are all around us. And it's so important that we take advantage, so that we're teaching our children about those things, about the healing ways, so that when they're harmed, heaven forbid, that they would know they have those resources, those tools, those gifts that were given to them, that our people fought so hard to retain. So that's my message.
We love that, and we welcome you to another Power Hour with Native Wellness Institute. And these are our allies. This grandma ally, Nicole, and all of her staff here. And we have got about 70 grantees, or yeah. And then our federal people are our allies. Just listening to them, it's a new day for allyship within Indian country. So, all of what we used to call outsiders, think about them as being allies. And so we welcome you. It's Wellness Wednesday, Native Wellness Institute. As we started out 7 days a week, 5 days a week, and we come here every Wednesday. So we'll see you next Wednesday, and we'll talk about some more healing. But I just want to thank Bonnie, and I want to thank Nicole. They're pretty precious. As you can see, I'm going to re-listen to this because I think that it will soothe me. And so when I'm on those 50 dates with Theda, I'm gonna pull up this. I'm gonna pull this up and be reminded that I learned this tool from these two beautiful sisters. So Kitakito Matsuno, we'll see you later.